Hello and welcome to the Money Queen podcast. I am Alex Nicolaitis, the Money Queen. I am here to break the stigma that we don't talk about money here. I will deliver the loving bitch slaps that you need in your business to elevate you as a leader and support you through to that next level of welcoming in the wealthiest version of yourself. Backed by 14 years in the accounting and bookkeeping industry, I utilize the support of the masculine systems, structure, and ATO compliance combined with the feminine energetics of mentoring and allowing ourselves to be open to receiving and holding space for queens like yourself who are committed to forming a healthy relationship with money. So hit that subscribe button, leave me a rating, and I cannot wait to have you by my side as we raise the feminine collective and create true generational wealth and change.
I have a special guest with me today, one of my beautiful, beautiful friends, Dom. And why I have asked her to be on the podcast today is because our conversations are fucking epic. We have become gym buddies in the last, 3 or 4 months, I think. And just the conversations that we have in the sauna and also whilst we're on the gym floor, I'm just like, people need to hear these conversations. So here we are. And like a bit of background about Dom. We've been friends for 2.5, 3 years-ish now. And when I first met you, I think that you were in a job then, and just soon after then, or you just transitioned to being like having your own business by that stage. And, you know, from being an observer and being your friend, like seeing you blossom into like the business that you have now and you standing into your power and like evolving and going like, you know, these are the standards that I had when I started the business, and to see you shift and change to like where you are now, I'm like, fuck yes, girlfriend. Like, yes.
It's been such a growth.
Yeah. So like, that's what I want to start off with is give us a bit of a background, perhaps better than what I just did. And tell us about the first few years of being in business and what that was like from, you know, essentially having the balls to go, actually, I'm going to do this thing. Like, what challenges did you face and how did you overcome those? And yeah, just talk us through your first couple of years.
Well, first of all, thank you so much. Yes, it is a pleasure to have chat in the sauna. But it's also even more epic to record these conversations now and just share with people so that it's also a lesson. Just to give you a little bit of a background, yes, when I met you, we, by the way, met in an epic way. And I think that's probably like for another episode. But I have just transitioned then, and I remember the first probably 3 or 4 months, they were the most challenging I can like ever think of, probably the most challenging months of my life. Shifting from the employee mindset to, okay, now it is your responsibility is something that I can't describe. And when I think about it, it is like uncovering layers, but having the awareness of this is happening, you need to work on that is the first step. And I think it did take me a good 2 or 3 months of going, actually, I am not somebody's employee anymore. Now I am like, I need to take the ownership and I need to create the business and the life that I want to have was the first step of going, okay, what can I do now? Yeah. And thinking about those months, actually, I said that they were the most challenging, but I think they were also the most beautiful. And I feel like normally those entrepreneurs that have already made it are glorified, and you would, you know, look up to them and think how amazing they are, but you very often forget what they've been through in the first months, and those months actually shaped them. So I think that's the beauty of being in business. And yeah, I actually forgot to say what I do and yeah, what's my business? So I am a brand and web designer, and I work with mainly female entrepreneurs. I work with creatives, consultants, business owners who are change makers and visionaries. I feel like after those 3 years, I finally found my audience, and I know that they are here to basically change the world for better. And people that I work with, they all make a big impact, and it's always a positive impact in one way or another.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Like the first 3 months, probably for me, like the first 3 to 6 months was the most challenging going, like actually having the idea and then the commitment and the decision to go, okay, I'm doing this, I'm quitting my job and it's now my responsibility. And I think that, you know, the challenge that you faced in my experience and my language is like, in an employee setting, there's always someone else that you can blame, or there's always someone else to be like, they should have given me this work, they should have told me this, they should have done that. And it's like, when you actually take that leap and you're like, this is my business now, and I'm a sole operator right now, it's like actually everything lands on your shoulders. Whereas being in a workforce with a team, it's like, oh, Sally didn't do that, Susan didn't do that, Gary didn't do that. And it's quite easy to go, I'm sitting on my high horse right now because I'm doing everything perfect and it's the other people's problems. Whereas, entrepreneurship rather. It's like, the biggest mirror that you can ever fucking find. And it's like everything that happens is a reflection of you.
Yes.
Everything that happens in your...
The good and the bad.
Yeah, the good and the bad, 100%. It's like you sign up for everything. And it's like if you, I believe, don't have the level of self-development to actually hold up that mirror and be courageous enough to look into it and go, what am I seeing? Or what am I not seeing here? Like, where do I have my eyes shut? Like, that's where people fall down.
That's so true. And also having big ego, it's another thing that I think was a big lesson for me, because I did have a big ego, I can admit that. A big ego is definitely one element that I can think of that's stopping most of the small business owners that I can think of. And the moment they can drop the ego and you actually can identify what's the problem and see that your pride is actually not allowing you to receive feedback and learn from the feedback that you get, is such a common thing that I see.
Yeah, I completely agree. And, being able to ask for feedback and not being asshole. And what I mean by that is if you go and think, oh, I'm the best entrepreneur in the world because I'm asking for all this feedback, but then when you receive it, you completely reject it, or you're like,
so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So uncomfortable.
And you're just like, no, that's not the truth. Like, that's their experience. That's their perspective. Like, that's their, version of events. And I've got my version of events. If you actually allow that ego to, run that show and go, that's not mine. It's like, actually, you are allowing yourself to get in your own way of growth and, personal and business. And that ego does not pay your fucking bills. Let's just say it as it is. And I think that, ego though does, I believe in my opinion, play a role in every person's life. But I think, you need to have a little bit of an ego to start a business, I think, to go, actually, I fucking got this.
Yeah, I can do it on my own.
Yeah.
Why would I do it for you if I can do it for myself?
Exactly.
For sure. Yeah, that's the reason why I started by saying, like, okay, big ego, guilty.
Yeah.
But, like, there is this, I feel like, different sides of ego, if you think about it. And, like, you need that self-belief. And I probably would call it, like, a deep conviction and self-belief rather than a big ego. Like, a big ego would have a rather negative connotation in my mind, but I do agree, like, they can be probably interchangeable.
Yeah, absolutely. Understanding and having the awareness to go, it's here, hi, hello, it's part of me, and how can I shift my relationship with it so that it can actually serve me and my business. I think that's where a really effective leader and a business owner comes into play. And it's like, okay, let's now the world is your oyster, because you're actually allowing everything that is of you to be here.
Yeah, totally agree. And I actually, thinking about how you shifted to this part, feel like there is one important bit about changing from the employee mindset to business owner, which is the discipline. Because like taking the ownership, what you mentioned, which is like blaming everybody else because like, if maybe a company is not bringing any results, you can say, oh yeah, this is like Helen's fault because she didn't do this, she didn't do that. But if it is you on your own, like, who else is to blame? It is just you. And then once you realize that, there's also this part of like, okay, why am I not bringing results? And that's where discipline comes to place, because I used to be a people pleaser. So to me, it was so easy to work for a company, because like knowing that I have a boss and like there are people that basically need what I'm doing, it would be just effortless to go through tasks. But then when you're on your own, you're like, oh, I actually need some system in place, because nobody is looking at me. Like nobody's watching. There people who, like, I don't have anybody who is dependent on me unless I create that opportunity. And that's so much more difficult. I feel like that's a big part of shifting as well.
Yeah, 100%. And the quote that's in my head right now, because I love quotes, is like, what you do in private is seen in public.
Yes.
And it's like, what you do in private when you're in business with yourself, it's like, if you don't follow through on actions, if you say that you're going to do something and you know, allow an excuse to come in, or just you know, fall short of expectations, your clients are going to leave, or you're not even going to attract them in the first place. So then you're not going to have a business, and then you don't have revenue coming in, you don't have any net profit left over. So like, how are you going to live? How are you going to survive? Well, I actually am reading Atomic Habits at the moment, and it's a fucking great book. It's probably going to be in one of my next book reviews. But yeah, the compound effect. Like, that can be used and should, and I highly fucking encourage it to be used in everyday life, because, you know, even these small moments of getting out of bed or pressing the snooze button once, it's like, how much impact is that making on your life? To go, I said to myself that I'm going to get up with pressing the snooze button once, and the minute that you go press it the second time and third time, fourth time, it's like
losing so much self-trust as well.
Exactly.
Because like, I'm not doing what I told myself I'm doing.
Yeah, and so then that muscle gets loosened because it's not being used, and then when you know, come into your office and go, okay, I'm starting work now, it's like, oh, I told Mary that I'd get back to her by 9 a.m. It's like 9:10 right now, but it's fine. I'll just get back to her like, you know, tomorrow morning at 9, or she won't even notice. Like, and that pattern and habit formation expands and expands until you just end up in a shit fight. And it's like, okay, where can we actually, you know, press a reset button and actually hold that mirror back up and go, what am I choosing right now? What business owner am I choosing to be right now? What type of leader am I choosing to be? Because effectively, with a client business situation, like, there's always a leader there. What type of leader am I being? And everything touches everything. What type of leader am I being in my family, in my relationship with my friends? Like,
and it's so funny how they're actually so like strongly connected, because you might think, oh, if I'm like amazing at business, it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm an amazing father or I'm an amazing, you know, family member, etc., etc. But I feel like if you can see the bad side of yourself, or like your personality or your leadership, and you have the self-awareness to actually, and also courage, because it's also you wanting to improve and you wanting to grow, then once you start recognizing it in a business setting, you go, oh, I'm actually being a really shit father. So it's like, I feel in my case, it was always business and then relationships and then family, etc. Like, it did not go the other way around for some reasons. I don't know why. I don't know if anybody has the same experience, but in my case, it was whatever I observed in business, it was always like, can I translate it into my family? Can I translate it into my relationships? How was it in your case?
The words going through my head right now was like, when in my first business, like, it was business, like that business was my entire life, and everything else was like secondary. So for me to even have that thought or that conversation with myself to go, how am I operating in business and how am I operating out here? There was a complete disconnect, because I was like, I just need to survive. I need to survive in this business, and I want it to thrive, and I have these massive goals, and like, family and friendships and relationships that were just like non-existent, because I was so focused on growing the business. And like, you know, it comes from wounding, and, you know, because my dad passed, and then I was like, I need to be the provider for the family. So I was like, I need to build all this wealth, and I need to build, you know, a life for a family. And I was like, so I was so laser focused on that goal, and you know, the business was the vehicle that I was doing that through, that I was just like, forget everything else. So I wasn't even able to have that link or that conversation, because I was just so like focused on this that everything else was.
But I'm pretty sure like the skills that you've learned during those harsh, or let's say survival mode years, like once you go out of it, you can reflect back and then learn your lessons. Like looking backwards.
100%. And like, you know, the stage that I'm at now in life, and having this total opposite.
It's like, chill.
Exactly. But it's like, now even business is second. Health and fitness number one. Make sure that I am at optimal peak performance, make sure that I'm happy, make sure that my like love relationship, because that's new in my world, is, you know, being nourished and it's wholesome. And then it's like, and then work comes after that, because if I don't look after myself, then
It's just going to fall apart. Yeah.
exactly, like everything's going to fall apart. And like if I die tomorrow, like my clients will be looked after by someone else, but like
You're very replaceable.
exactly,
Yeah.
in every situation I'm replaceable. So like where do I actually want to invest my time and energy the most right now for this stage of life? It's with the people that I love the most. Do I love my clients? Absolutely. But do I love myself and my partner more? Fuck yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's like, where am I choosing to operate in, and what's more important to me right now? A complete 360 from
You've changed so much. Oh my god, what a journey.
yeah. If you met me back then, it's
you wouldn't even have time for sauna, so you'd be like,
Exactly.
I need to head to the office.
yeah, absolutely. I did not have, and I would not have had time to make any new friends whatsoever.
Exactly.
Yeah. Talking about shifts and obstacles that you've moved through in the first couple of years of being in business, what's been your biggest obstacle, and I guess a reflection point on that now that you're out of that situation, or perhaps you may still be in it? Talk to us about that.
The biggest obstacle, oh my god, myself. It's me. It's like whatever shit you have going on inside of yourself is just so projected onto your business. So whenever there is like a leak that I can see, it will be like, okay, what can I link it to? How can I fix them? At the moment, definitely it will be marketing, because it's just it's so linked to being seen, being exposed, and just like overcoming that obstacle. Because for a long time I talked myself into like, oh, just referrals, like you're great at connecting with people. And yeah, I am a human, like very easygoing with people, and I find making friends and connections so effortless. And you know, like you can easily fall into what you're good at, and that's exactly what I did, because I was like, okay, I'm just going to I'm just going to put all my eggs into one basket. And then social media showing up, like I guess I didn't also have that understanding of you can multiply yourself through that, and that's an easy way to tell many people what you would normally tell your friends one-on-one. So it's like, okay, seeing it as a way of basically serving a bigger audience was a big shift in my mind. And that happened recently, of like, oh, you know what, I should just see beyond me not liking social media and not liking to, you know, write posts. And I wrote really boring posts, so obviously I would be like, would I want to read my own shit that I write? No, like what can I do differently? So I feel like that happened at the end of 2022. I was like, okay, I definitely need to change. I need to find different ways of navigating my marketing, diversify a lot, and find a discipline and take the ownership and just do it. So for approximately 1 month, I've been postponing. And yesterday I sat down and I was like, okay, this is my day to write content. How can I make this content exciting? I was like, would I want to read my own content? Yes, no. I wrote a couple of posts. Then I was like, okay, let me check in. Would I like to read it? No. Okay, deleting it. Is this exciting? Like, does that light me up? Like, if I saw that on my feed, would I go, oh my god, that's amazing? And I was like, no. Like, I literally called down to one post that I wrote out of 5. But I know the more I do it, the more I get into the rhythm, the more I will actually understand what's converting and what's serving people. So it's just a matter of like everything that I did in business, it was like you just go through a really big learning curve. And then at the end of that learning curve, you're like, now it is so easy. But like you need to go through that even though you don't want to. And even though like my brain talked me out of that for so long. Like even doing this podcast, this morning I woke up, I was like, I slept really bad. Maybe I can cancel. I was like, do it.
Like, you were not canceling.
I know. It's just like, it's so interesting how many ways our brain can find to protect us, because it's essentially protecting us. But it's like,
protecting inverted commas.
Exactly. I'm like, brain, I'm not negotiating with you this morning. I am going to show up even though I didn't sleep well and it was bloody hot and there was a mosquito in the room. I am going to show up.
And that's so interesting that you say the mosquito, because it's like the tiniest little thing in the room can make the biggest impact. I'm sure we've all been camping and have heard like a mozzie in our swag or tent, whatever thing. And it's like this tiny little thing, but such a huge impact of going, you hear it around your ears and you're like, fuck, I can't sleep. And it's just like so annoying. And then, you know, linking that to one thought in your mind of going, like, there's 5 excuses why I want to cancel on Alex today, but it's like there's one excuse why I do want to. And it's like, where's the mosquito here? Like, which am I going to listen to? Like, how many times did these thoughts need to fly past my ears before I go, actually, I'm going to go get the spray and spray it out so that it can go?
Yeah. And also on mosquitoes, by the way. There is one quote that I can't remember what it was, but it's essentially like a big message that I would have for everybody. If you feel insignificant when you're starting out your business, think about the mosquito. Like, how significant can the mosquito be in an empty room at night? It's like bloody powerful. Just that little thing.
Yeah, and I'll relate that to a conversation we had the other day actually with Sophia. Hi Sophia, if you're listening. Not if you're listening, you were definitely listening. And she went and found a naturopath or something like that recently.
Kinesiologist?
Yes,
kinesiologist. Are you talking about the breath work that she's doing?
Yes. And she was like, I just found this girl's Instagram page, and literally from one post, Sophia really connected with it, and she booked her in, and now she's working with her for like 6 months or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's like literally one post has made this woman, I don't know how much she's paying, but like if you had 5 posts and you've only accepted one, like maybe your ideal client would have connected with one of the other ones, but then like because your languaging and your mosquitoes have only allowed you to post the one to be like, that's acceptable. Like what opportunities are you like taking away from your future self?
That is so true. And actually reflecting on business, I feel like I have had so many situations where I really wanted to say no, but then I would ask myself, okay, is it because it doesn't feel aligned, or is it because you're scared? And normally it's like, you kind of know, like deep down, you know. And like, for instance, today it was like, obviously it's just like you're scared to basically go into the podcast. But like, I would probably be able to give you 100 examples where I was really scared of doing something, and like I would, oh my God, I really don't want to do it. But then if you just understand what place it comes from, and if you say yes regardless of the discomfort, it always turns out to be such an amazing thing. So that we can like link it back to the post as well, because I'll be like, I really don't want to do it. Like I don't want to post it. Like I don't want to be exposed. Like I don't want people to see me, etc., etc. But then like from that one thing that was uncomfortable, so many things can flourish.
100%. Yeah. And I'm glad you said what you just said, because it leads me to my next question.
Okay.
I've got a question. Are you ready for some sassy wake-up calls around your money world and a fire to be lit under your eyes? Introducing the Money Queen Coaching Package, a 6-week journey which has already been a key pivotal experience for queens just like you to shift their relationship with money. Get a personalized sacred money archetype reading, which is pretty much like a human design, but for your money world, filled with aha moments and 2 tailored 90-minute sessions to reset your money mindset and unleash your magnetic power. Click the link in the show notes to claim your throne, Queen.
You've mentioned that you were a people pleaser, you're a recovering people pleaser. So then, and I experienced this as well in my own journey, and I'm sure so many other people do it as well. When you start out, you're like, I have to say yes to everything. I have to say yes to every job. I have to say yes to every extra request, even though it's outside of the scope of what they've actually paid for. I have to say yes to a deadline, which I know that I can't commit to and couldn't like complete on time, which means I need to do, 3 or 4 late nights in a row to actually meet the expectations. Like, I just need to say yes to everything. And it was probably maybe about a year ago, I think, you were having a conversation with one of our other friends, and I was eavesdropping. It was like part of it. I don't know.
I need to be careful what I say, because not that I know that you have such a good memory.
Yeah, always watching. Or listening, rather, both. I don't know.
You're a great listener.
Yeah, thank you. So it was a conversation around your evolution in business and going, now you're actually, have a bit of skin in the game, and you've operated with a few different clients, done some projects, it's like, actually, I'm not okay with saying yes to everything anymore. Like, it's really draining me. And when I started out, I was happy to say yes to everything. But now it's like, I want to be more selective. I want to do projects that actually light me up. And right now, like, saying yes to everything, like, I'm getting drained.
Yeah.
So talk to us about that experience and perhaps that conversation if you remember it.
I do remember, I think I do remember that conversation, but there are also many layers that I can answer this question. I loved the learning curve of working with people that I don't like. And I feel like once you are glorified and once it's like, apply to work with me, you know, it's people normally want to hear that because that means you're, you know, successful and you're doing well and people then just gravitate towards you, etc., etc. But I feel like something that's really overlooked is the time when you are doing the shit work. Because in my experience, and when you asked me that question, my mind immediately went into, you know what, there was so much excitement and so much learning from all the things that I said yes to in the first year before I actually understood what I want to do. And I could just say, oh yeah, like have that structure of, you know, filtering your clients and understanding who is aligned or not. But whoever is listening to this podcast and whoever is maybe at the stage where maybe they're not getting enough clients and maybe they don't have enough work coming in. And I feel like reframing your mindset to maybe this client is not 100% aligned, but can I still learn from that client? Can I still help that client? Like, I remember initially when I started, I already had an idea of who I wanted to work with. Like, I knew I wanted to work with female entrepreneurs. I knew that I would really love to support people who have a big vision and are visionaries. But when you start out and you don't have any experience, like, you're not going to attract people who are up there because they're not going to even see you unless you are that mosquito. But
that's it. How do we become the mosquito?
Exactly. But like, it is so important to first drop the ego, what we talked about before, and then ask yourself, okay, that client is maybe not of my interest. Maybe they don't fit into like my ideal client description, but can I still help them? Do they still have the same values? Can I still learn from them? And I do remember many situations in which I took the job and I was like, this is amazing. Like, I would not think that client would be aligned because he, like, the client that comes to my mind is a male and he would, you know, have a team of 20 people and he would be far away from like what I was going for. I do think that everything that happens to us happens for a reason and we can always learn from that experience. So like in this case, I really don't want to sell this message of niche down and, you know, only work with selected people, etc., etc. Yeah, maybe when your time comes, yes, like maybe if you feel like you know who you are, you've already had those lessons, you already narrowed down your offer, like you are just amazing, then yes. But if you're not at that point, then there's nothing wrong with not being there yet. Like, understanding where you are at in business, it's super important as well to like be realistic. But going back to that client, I feel like every single experience that I had built up my self-esteem and my self-belief as well. So like in these situations where I would take a job that maybe wasn't 100% aligned, I would be like, oh my God, I can actually like work with that person and like, how can I learn? So coming back to atomic habits and how you can just like layer everyday small tasks and everyday experiences into something bigger and build that self-trust, then whenever I do have that aligned client, like I am so strong in whatever I do because I'm like, I've already practiced and I've already exercised and I know what works and what doesn't, and I know how to communicate because I've had all those experiences where communication was key and I had the chance to practice and observe and learn and like ask for feedback. That's the first layer that I see when it comes to understanding who you want to work with and how to be more selective. And I'm not saying that people should be doing it for a prolonged period of time because that can easily lead to a burnout because you don't get as much satisfaction working with those people that you would get with your ideal client. So what I'm saying is, if you get an opportunity where you see at least a little bit of learning and a little bit of opportunity, say yes regardless. That would be my tip.
And I think to that point, it's coming into it with intentionality.
Yeah.
To say, like, I did a book review on Rich Dad Poor Dad, and one of the things in it was like, you go to work to actually learn as opposed to go to work for the money.
Yeah.
And then the money is the byproduct. Like that's how I see the first sort of 6 months of business and saying yes to everything. It's like, I'm saying yes to learning right now. The money is a byproduct, a happy byproduct, but right now I just need to learn how to communicate effectively with clients, how to charge appropriately for clients, how to set my standards and boundaries in place, how to have a challenging conversation. And that's the most important thing for the first 6, maybe even 12 months of your business, depending on your prior experience, of going, okay, this actually isn't about the revenue, it's about the lessons that I get to learn here, so that then when I actually want to scale up and I do want to focus on my revenue, I'm a better entrepreneur because of that prior learning period.
Yeah, exactly.
At the start of our conversation, you mentioned how we became friends and how we met. And I think that that's actually a really beautiful story. I'd love to hear your version of how we met and our friendship. And then also what relationships and networking and, your environment, how that actually has played a role in your business journey as well.
I see 2 layers here. I'm speaking in layers today.
All of the onions.
Exactly. Such an onion. So the way we met was quite interesting because at the beginning of 2021, which is just a couple of months before I actually decided to do it full time and like go all in, I was studying a lot from home. I was doing a couple of courses back then, and I was just already preparing myself for what I was going for. And it just felt so absolutely miserable being home alone. And I, obviously being an extrovert, if you can't tell, I would be just like craving that human connection. And back then I lived in West End and I was just in the unit, and I would have, like my 2 screens, just a computer desk. I did not have any idea about what networking was. I was also quite new still in the country because I think I came just 1 year before. So it was just a really tricky time to navigate in terms of building relationships. I remember thinking, okay, if nothing changes, nothing changes. My favorite quote, by the way, like if you just want to change something, change something in your daily life. But back then I remember just having like the end of year reflections and saying, you know what, how do I want to attract more friendship into my life? Like I'm not doing anything. I'm just literally stuck in this dungeon. The whole day looking at screens. Like I am connecting with people online, yes, other designers, etc. But I would literally not have like any human connection for a week. And back then I remember, okay, so what's the most obvious way I can meet people? So I went to Meetup. I was like, whatever will be interesting for me, I'm just going to take it. And I remember booking 2 sessions. One was, that's actually a hilarious story as well. I'm not sure if I'll have enough time to cover both, but I will start with the more important one. One was basically on setting your goals. And I was like, this feels aligned. Like I was really trying to grow myself back then. I was like, that sounds interesting. I just chose 2 groups that I knew that I can commit to that had the topics that I felt aligned with. And also note on that strategically, that meetup was starting at 7 a.m. I think on the 4th of February. And I thought, like only freaks are going to go there and attend so early. Like people who really have the same values.
You're like, if they're my people, I need to go.
Yeah, like people who would not be drinking the night before and be like super hungover and sleep till 12 on the next day. I'm like, I'm going to go. And when I showed up, there were 3 people in there, and we are still friends, by the way. I think I've made so many friends through that group. Like my strongest relationships in Brisbane were made through that group.
Yeah, I agree.
Because like if you think about it strategically, the time, the topic, who leads the group was just the perfect combination of attracting the right people who are like-minded. And whenever I talk with, I actually haven't heard your story, but when I talked with Kat, saying hello to Kat if you're watching.
Oh, of course Kat's listening. Hi, Kat.
When speaking with Kat, she was the same. Like she just wanted to network, and she just felt very lonely, and she just didn't want to connect with anybody. Like there's so many meetup opportunities and so many events, but depending on who you are going to resonate with one or another. So like if you want to change your life and you're currently in like the drinking group, maybe like strategically thinking about changing the timing, etc., could be helpful. But essentially I remember you, I think, coming in maybe 3 months later and we just connected immediately. And the rest is history.
You've been friends ever since. You're not getting rid of me anytime soon.
Well, vice versa.
yeah. Stuck for life. Gifted with each other for life, rather, not stuck.
Yeah.
So how has saying yes to that networking event and increasing the resonance, I guess, or the vibration of your environment, because everyone in that group, and I agree, my closest friends are from that group, how has that elevated your business experience to go these are the people that are in my world that I speak to regularly, and how impactful, I guess, has that been on creating your business to where it is now?
I would say your tribe and your environment will mean so much in the business journey. I wasn't aware of that back then. I think I can only see it looking back. But just having people who are doing similar things or have a similar type of freedom and very similar values is really motivating, because we humans, obviously, we are herd people. We learn from the empirical experiences that we have. If I see you succeeding and if I see you going for it, I'm like, fuck yes, I can do it as well. What do you have that I don't have, that I can't make it?
Yeah.
While if, let's say, my circle was very different and it will be around just hanging out together Saturday and Sunday, having casual beers, etc., I would probably be thinking that that's the reality. So whatever you expose yourself to becomes part of your mindset. So in my case, seeing other people succeed or seeing other people doing certain things is so inspiring and also motivating. And, in a way, you need to have that self-belief of I can do it, but seeing somebody else doing is I can do it.
Of course, yeah. And what I love about what you just said is I think there's an overwhelming proportion of the world, the population, that would see other friends or connections and see them succeed in inverted commas, whatever that looks like to them, and have this perception and go, oh, what an asshole. It must be so easy for them to do X, Y, and Z or have X, Y, and Z. And the way that you've languaged it and the way that you operate is if I see Alex doing X, Y, Z, or if I see Sophia doing X, Y, Z, or if I see Hannah doing X, Y, and Z, it's know that I can too. There's nothing different than me to them. They're just doing something different, or they have a different belief, or they're taking different actions. And it's you're allowing yourself to use it as an inspiration, as opposed to a pulling you down and going, fuck, what a jerk.
I see that many people could do it, could see it that way. But I feel I love people, first of all, and I think innately I just want good for people. So to me, going, oh, I'm so happy for you, it's so natural. While I know that for many people it is not, and I've experienced that myself. And there was a time in my life I was like, okay, I need to call out some of my friendships because of that toxic. I'm not happy for you when you're succeeding. Friendships that are with you when you're neutral or down. So I see where you're coming from, and I think if people have that, they definitely should work on that.
Yeah.
Because it's there's nothing wrong with what she's doing. If something learned from her.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's it's not a them problem, it's a you problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Where's that mirror?
It's never them. It's not. It's always about us and how we see ourselves and our perception of things.
And even the analogy that popped into my head is when you point at someone, there's one finger pointed at the other person, but then there's 3 pointed back at you, and it's one percentage is over here, and then 3% is over here. So it's what's actually happening here? Where am I projecting when it should actually be where I need to project on myself right now and have a listen to myself and fucking do some journaling, get some cacao, have some Palo Santo to clear that shit out.
I know, but you need to have that courage, and you need to want to work on that, because most of the people that I know don't have that. They would be, it is you, open your side, you.
Yeah, 100%, yeah.
Not
no.
me.
No,
yeah.
Definitely not.
Well, I'm guilty of that as well, but I'm growing my awareness.
Yeah. Exactly.
And sometimes it's just, we know what we know. And then after a certain period of time, you're oh, that was me.
Oops.
Yeah. Exactly. I was how could I have not realized?
Yeah. But I think being humble enough to go, oh damn, that's how I was operating. Because I remember when I had a team of 11
Mm.
and I thought that I was the best leader ever because
Did you send out your feedback form?
I did not ask for feedback back then at all. But it was, I was doing the best that I could at the time with the knowledge and awareness that I had. And because I was, a workhorse and I had that huge, goal that I mentioned earlier, I was like, for my team to be successful in my eyes, they needed to do everything perfectly. So if they did it perfectly and to my standard, and you know me, I have high standards on many things, it's like, you're shit. You're not doing this right. And I'd get frustrated and I'd project onto them my frustration because they weren't doing it perfectly. But it's like, actually, I didn't train them the way that I desired the outcome to come back to me. So why am I, getting upset and frustrated at them? It's actually get upset and frustrated at myself because I didn't give them the tools all the time to actually be successful.
Yeah. And I feel like a great leader is the leader that has the self-awareness of, if something goes wrong in my team, it is not them. It is, again, me. So coming back to me again, because it's like either you didn't do the training properly, you did not communicate things properly, maybe you don't have enough standards, or maybe your boundaries are not clear. So whatever your problem is, you're just projecting that onto the team member. And yeah, if somebody tells me like, oh, I've had, 5 people for a certain role and it just didn't happen, I will be like, okay.
Good morning, we are testing the fire system.
Okay, so that was unplanned. We've just had a little emergency evacuation type thing happen. Back to regular programming. But that is a sign because we're at time. So to wrap up this episode, you actually said something in that little interlude of, podcasting is actually really fun. I should do this more often.
Yeah.
What is something that you move through a challenge, and because you spoke earlier of like when you woke up this morning, you were like, I don't want to do this, but then you were like, no, that's just something that I'm scared of and I get to move through this right now.
Yeah.
And now that you've experienced 99% of it, you're like, that was actually fun. Like, I want to do more of that. Where is another example in your world or in your business that has happened for you, and a parting message to the listeners?
Overcoming a challenge, or like saying yes to something that I thought is not going to be fun, but it turned out to be fun. Probably, if I think about it, is networking, because very often I'm like, networking again, I don't want to go and network, blah blah, having my own stories and excuses, but then going into that event and then like absorbing the energy and just like feeling uplifted, it's very often like a big yes to me afterwards. There is a group that I am a member of, and we have weekly meetings, and at the beginning of the year I promised myself that I will be showing up regularly every Monday, even though it's really uncomfortable because you never know who you're going to end up in the room with, and it's just like sometimes you'll have an amazing group, sometimes you won't, and it's just like a way for you to have some sort of challenge and work through that challenge and still have an amazing experience. It's just a combination of commitment, saying yes, then not having any expectations attached, and just allowing events to unfold. And I feel like normally when you make decisions from the place of, I'm just scared because I've never done that, rather than this is not something that's serving me, it's normally going to be a big surprise, like a positive surprise of like, oh my God, that was so nice.
Yeah, I love that. Well, thank you so much
for having me.
And I know that you enjoyed your first podcast because this is your first podcast.
I've never done a podcast, by the way. Apologies, I'm working on it.
This is a sorry-free zone, so you take that back.
not apologizing. Next time I'll be better. Well, actually, I feel like it was pretty effortless as well.
Right? Because we're just sitting here having a conversation. Yeah. So for anyone listening who is resonating with your story, your vibe, and wants a website refresh, tell them how they can get in contact with you.
The best way to get in contact with me would be either through Instagram or directly through my website. If you just want to have a casual chat and, ask for a piece of advice, maybe some feedback, probably Instagram would be better. And if you're ready to jump in, it will be my website, and I'm just going to share the link in the bio.
Yep, perfect. One final question. Pronounce your business name.
It's Doaloa.
Do I lower?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I've always read it and I'm like, I think I'm saying this right, but I don't know
It
how I'm
sounds
saying
how I
it.
am. Yeah. I've had so many people tell me that it sounds how I am. I'm actually due for a rebrand,
Okay,
so
love
stay
that.
tuned. Planning to change my business name as well to just reflect where I'm at a little bit more. But at the moment it is Doaloa.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love that. Exciting things to come.
And just to say thank you to all the listeners, what I have special for you is 5 limited spots for a homepage audit if you are sitting on the fence in regards to your website, and I'll also link it down below.
Perfect. Thank you.
Awesome.
Love
Thank
you.
you so much. Love you too.
Thank you, Queen, for saying yes to your yes in listening to this episode and being a part of raising the feminine collective one conversation at a time. Remember to share this episode with your business besties and join me in breaking the tabooness around having money conversations. As always, if you have enjoyed this episode, please rate, subscribe, and share this on your social media, remembering to tag me in it to help this conversation go further, which creates a bigger ripple effect.